Now, President Donald Trump announced that Iran and Israel have agreed to a ceasefire. The phased ceasefire would bring about an official end to the 12-day war. The U.S. president later told U.S. media that he thinks the ceasefire is unlimited and it is going to go on forever. A senior White House official said that Israel agreed to the ceasefire deal on the condition that Iran stops its attacks in their country. During the negotiations, the U.S. president communicated directly with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, while Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff negotiated the terms through direct and indirect channels with the Iranians. A report citing a diplomatic source said that Trump asked the Emir of Qatar to broker the ceasefire agreement with Iran. The Qatari Prime Minister secured Iran's agreement on Monday, which Trump then announced to the world on social media. Trump said that the ceasefire would be a phased 24-hour process, beginning in 6 hours, with Iran unilaterally halting all operations. Israel would follow suit 12 hours later. He added that upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. The ceasefire announcement came hours after Iran launched missiles at the largest U.S. military facility in West Asia, Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, in a move Trump shrugged off as very weak. Calling for a de-escalation, Trump thanked Tehran for giving advance notice to the barrage. Trump expressed that with the strikes, Iran had gotten it all out of their system and that there will hopefully be no further hate. Iran's National Security Council confirmed having targeted the base in response to the U.S. aggressive and insolent action against Iran's nuclear sites and facilities, but it added that the number of missiles launched was the same as the number of bombs that the U.S. had used, a signal that it had calibrated its response to be directly proportionate rather than escalatory. Iran is yet to officially agree to the ceasefire but said it won't retaliate further if Israel stops its military action. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said if Israel stops its aggression no later than 4 a.m., then we have no intention to continue our response afterwards. He said that any final decision on the cessation of our military operations will be made later. A series of powerful explosions rocked Tehran early Tuesday morning. The blast occurred just hours before a staggered ceasefire was due to take effect. Trump also said that the ceasefire would begin once Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their progress in final missions. Earlier, we were joined by political analyst and lawyer Stephen Golub. This is what he told us on Trump's ceasefire announcement between Israel and Iran. Listen to this.
Well, fast-paced indeed. You know, if you were to interview me an hour from now, the headline could well be different the way this story is evolving. In the next 6 or 7 hours, yes, it's very possible, although Israel and Iran have not yet confirmed this, it's very possible there will be a real ceasefire in place. But I have to take a bigger look at this, or to take a look at the bigger picture, really, I have two very ironic words for you. Mission accomplished, which are the words that George W. Bush used back in 2003, 6 weeks after invading Iraq and deposing Saddam Hussein, claiming great success in that campaign, aiming to build a democratic Iraq that would be stable and not a problem for its neighbors. Well, over the longer run, that certainly failed. Looking at the U.S. record in Afghanistan as well. Back at that time, we had deposed the Taliban. Now, who's back in power in Afghanistan? The Taliban. So the ceasefire is in and of a good thing. And in fact, I'd even say bombing Iraq's nuclear facilities was a good thing, not just for Israel, not just for the U.S., but for the world. I don't think India has enough on its hands with China on one side and Pakistan on the other to have a very rabid fundamentalist regime in power in Iran with the nuclear bomb would not be in India's interest. It's not even in the interest of Russia, Iran's ally. So let's see what happens next. Most notably, whether Iran commits to allowing rigorous inspections to determine whether its nuclear facilities have been destroyed, whether it's not going to rebuild them, and what's become of the nearly 10 bombs worth of nuclear grade, or nearly bomb grade, I should say, materials it had assembled. Well, given the circumstances, I think it may be in both sides' interest to have a ceasefire. They've been bombarding each other. Maybe Israel would want to continue, but Israel's taken some hits along the way. So it could be in both sides' interests. And, when we have a ceasefire, that can go in all sorts of directions. If you're the Iranians, yes, maybe you simply want an end to hostilities. But if you're the Iranian leadership, you may say, okay, let's get a ceasefire. Israel will no longer be attacking us. We'll have a breather now. We can begin to reassemble our military, begin to look at how we can work around the limits put on us to maybe still go ahead and build a bomb using the nuclear materials we may well have available. So it may be not have been that hard to broker the ceasefire under the circumstances, but the really big question is what happens next. And the really big issue here again is Iran really agreeing to step back, or is it just a temporary ploy, especially on its part, to try to delay and obfuscate matters so that it can build a bomb, not necessarily tomorrow or next month, but in a year or two, or even, who knows, buy one from North Korea? Uh, it could be separated in different places around the country. There are reports that there were trucks near the nuclear facilities shortly before, in the days before the U.S. attacked these three nuclear sites. And frankly, and if Iran did move these nuclear materials, we may need to hold Donald Trump responsible for that, because instead of playing it quietly and not threatening and blustering the way he did, he made it sound like an attack might be imminent, not definite, but might be, which from the Iranians' point of view, provided them with all the information they needed to say, let's spirit these nuclear materials to different secret sites all around the country. If I could add one more piece of context here, where we are now is really behind where we were a decade ago. The US administration, with other countries, including Russia, signing on, agreed with Iran that it would limit its development of nuclear materials, that they would be carefully inspected so that they could only be used for peaceful purposes. They would not become nearly bomb grade the way they are now. Donald Trump came in 2018 and abrogated that agreement, so that we're in worse shape now than we would have been if he'd simply had honored that agreement. And the world is in kind of an unstable state, and the region is in an unstable state as a result. So credit to the Trump administration for going after these facilities, given what a horrible regime Iran is. It supports terrorism. It's horrible to its own people. It's very destabilizing. But let's not get too carried away with the praise, because Trump helped create the very circumstances that these bombings are meant to correct.